We spend so much of our lives trying to perfect the masks we wear, right? We practice what we're going to say, we keep our voices steady, and we kind of tell ourselves, hey, if I can just control the story, I can control how people see me. But what about those little moments we just can't control? Because underneath that practiced, oh, I'm fine, or that professional nod you give in a meeting, there's a flicker. It's this tiny lapse in the armor that shows a real emotion before your conscious brain even gets a chance to shut it down, and it happens in less than a second. And that's what we call microexpressions. Think of them like these little involuntary leaks from our nervous system. Now, for most people, these flickers just fly by totally unnoticed. It's just background noise. But for some of you, well, seeing them isn't really a choice, is it? It's more like a reflex. And that feeling, that profound exhaustion that comes from always sensing the gap between what someone's feeling and what they're actually showing, well, it can create this quiet, really persistent sense of being alone. I mean, have you ever been in a conversation where on the surface, everything seems totally fine, but your gut is just screaming that something is off? You're picking up on these tiny little shifts in their tone, or maybe the microscopic tightening of their jaw. You can just feel a distance there, long before anyone is willing to say it out loud. And this kind of hyper-awareness, honestly, it can feel like such a heavy burden. It can make the world feel loud and unpredictable and sometimes just plain dishonest. You start to second-guess yourself, right? You start wondering, am I just overthinking all of this? Or am I seeing a truth that maybe I wasn't supposed to find? But what if I told you this isn't a flaw? Not at all. In fact, psychology suggests that this ability to decode hidden emotions usually isn't some gift you're born with. It's actually a highly refined skill, an adaptation that you learned in order to survive. Think about it. When you grow up in an environment that's emotionally unpredictable, your brain learns that it needs to prioritize social signals just to feel safe or even just to feel included. So if your feelings were constantly dismissed, or if you had to be the one to manage everyone else's emotions, your brain probably developed a core belief. I have to watch people really, really carefully to figure out what's actually going on here. So what happened is your nervous system basically became this high-frequency receiver, tuned in to the unpredictability of human behavior. It's like it's running this constant background analysis, always scanning for emotional clues to figure out a deeper meaning or potential outcome. And this wasn't about being nosy. It was about anticipating the emotional weather just to stay safe. And this distinction is so important. This isn't just being observant in some casual, relaxed way. No, this is an adaptive response. It's a mechanism that was built out of necessity. Your mind is constantly scanning, not out of simple curiosity, but because you learned, maybe a long time ago, that when things got quiet, it might mean something was about to go wrong. Okay, to make this crystal clear, let's just look at a concrete example. Let's talk about nervous laughter, especially when it happens in a really serious situation. To anyone watching from the outside, it can look pretty shocking, right? It might seem like a total lack of empathy or even a sign of disrespect. But if we put on our psychological defense glasses, we start to see something completely different happening just beneath the surface. See, when emotional tension from fear or shock gets way too high, the nervous system frantically looks for a quick release, and laughter is often the brain's fastest escape hatch to get back to some kind of balance. It's not a choice, it's an involuntary overflow, like a quick mental reboot to stop from being completely overwhelmed. And this is where that hyper-awareness kicks in. If you're someone who notices that flash of panic, that micro-expression that happens right before the so-called inappropriate laugh, you get it. You understand it's not about a joke. You actually see the leakage of the real emotion, the fear, before the mask of the laugh gets put on. And that, right there, is the difference between judging a behavior and decoding a mechanism. So real clarity starts to happen when we can stop seeing this sensitivity as a source of anxiety and start seeing it for what it truly is, a really sophisticated tool for understanding the world on a much deeper level. So if you find yourself hyper-aware of all these hidden emotions, it's very often because your brain was literally shaped to be more alert to the shifts in the people around you. You're not overthinking. You're just processing more variables, a deeper, heavier layer of reality that a lot of people just skip right over. And this adaptation, it often leads to something you could call guarded empathy. It means you can read people incredibly well. You can sense problems coming a mile away. But you've also learned how to protect yourself because you know what it costs to care too much without that protection. You probably learned responsibility way before you learned what it felt like to be safe, and that changes a person. Okay, so what do we do with all this? How can we actually use this awareness in a way that's, well, constructive instead of just draining? The next time you see it, that flicker of sadness in a smile, or that flash of fear behind a joke, just remember that what you're seeing is one of the rawest, most unspoken parts of being human. At the end of the day, we're all just trying to keep it together in real time. So maybe the goal isn't to go around and expose every little inconsistency you see. Maybe the real purpose of this skill is to use that incredible insight to offer the consistency and the safety that you yourself might have really needed once upon a time. It's about understanding, not confronting. Your awareness is not a burden you have to carry. It's a form of quiet, analytical compassion. It's a tool that lets you see the real story behind the words. And maybe, just maybe, it allows you to offer a little bit of understanding in a world that so often defaults to judgment.